Dear students, you are welcome to MA English class of paper 6, that is Indian writing in English. So today I will discuss unit 2, that is minute of the 2nd of February 1835. Yesterday I started this unit, but the time was over. So that's why I will start it again today so that we can cover it in one class. So this minute or this unit or the title of this unit, that is minute of the 2nd of February 1835. It is prepared or written by T.B. Macaulay. So let's discuss the unit now. So what are the objectives of this unit? What are the objectives of today's class? So the objectives are to situate Macaulay's minute on education in the context of the debate between the Anglicists and the Orientalists in India in the 19th century. To understand his interpretation of the Act of British Parliament of 1813, which allocated funds to revive and promote literature, as we have discussed in Unit 1, that British Parliament allocated 1 lakh of rupees to promote and revive Indian literature. So, though uh, nothing was done uh, of that amount, but there were debates regarding that. So, to put an end to the debates, T.B. Macaulay was called for the minute of the meeting. And in this meeting, in this minute, we will see that how he interpreted uh, that the amount of 1 lakh rupees, which was allocated by 1813 Act of British Parliament, that how this fund should be used for the revival of or for the promotion of literature or the knowledge. We will discuss in this point uh, the argument of Macaulay's and uh, the purpose of this amount. We will discuss in this unit. And to analyze the minute and its specific suggestions to discover Macaulay's attitude towards Indian systems of knowledge and the people. And through this minute, we will analyze, we will see that what was the attitude of Macaulay towards the Indian systems of knowledge and the people. What Macaulay thought about the Indian literature. Let's talk about the Arabic or the Sanskrit or whatever, that about the Indian languages or the people or the Indian literature. What was the perception of Macaulay? So all these things will be discussed in today's class or in this unit. So before moving towards the minutes of the meeting, a minute of meeting, a minute which was prepared by T.B. Macaulay, we will see what is minute actually, what the minute means. So minute is, minutes of a meeting or a written record of what happened during a meeting. So minutes of meeting are the written record, what is being discussed in a meeting. So as I told you that the amount of 1 lakh rupees which was allocated by 1813 Act of British Parliament, that this amount should be used for the revival and promotion of Indian languages, Indian knowledge, Indian literature, particularly Arabic and Sanskrit literature. So there were debates and arguments regarding that. So here, uh, the minute which was written by T.B. Macaulay is the outcome of a meeting, of a debate. So here, as we see in this slide, that the minute is a written record of what is happening or what is being discussed in a meeting. So minutes include the main points of the discussion, decisions made, and actions to be taken. So all these things like what is being discussed in the meeting, or what are the decisions have been made, or what are the actions will be taken. These points are discussed in a minute of meeting. So now we will see that what was the context of Macaulay's minute. T.B. Macaulay was born in 1800 and died in 1859, was a member of the Council of India and the chairman of the Committee for Public Instruction. Some members of the Committee for Public Instruction were of the opinion that it is prescribed by British Parliament that 1 lakh amount is for promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit. So as I told you that 1 lakh rupee was allocated by 1813 Act of British Parliament, and some members of that committee, there was a committee, and in that committee we will find that there were two groups. One group was in support of Oriental literature. The other one was in support of the uh, uh, Anglicist, or we can say that Western literature. So here, the people who were in support of the Oriental literature, they said that this amount is allocated for the promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit literature or the language. So based on this understanding, the British had followed a system of education by which students who studied these languages were given a stipend. So based on this understanding that this amount is allocated for the promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit languages. So based on this understanding, uh, that British thought that the students who are studying these languages like Arabic and Sanskrit will be given stipend. So this was according to few people, according to few members of that committee. So there was a debate between Anglicists who supported the introduction and promotion of English in India and the Orientalists who favored the use of classical Indian languages. As I told you, that there were two groups in that committee. One group was Anglicists who supported the introduction and promotion of English in India, and there was other group that is called as Orientalists who supported the classical Indian languages, who were in the favor of classical Indian languages, and according to them, that the amount should be used for the promotion of Indian languages, classic Indian languages, that is Arabic and Sanskrit. Macaulay's response to this debate comes out most forcefully in the minute he prepared for William Bentinck, the then Governor General in India. So these debates were going on that how the amount should be used. Two groups were there in the meeting, in the committee, and they were in favor of their own respective languages. Like Anglicists were in the favor of English, and the Orientalists were in favor of Arabic and Sanskrit. So at that point, we see that Macaulay's minute uh, is the response of that debate or the discussion which was going on. And this minute he prepared for William Bentinck, who was the Governor General in India. Now, Macaulay's interpretation of 1813 Act. So, as I told you that different groups in that committee, there were two groups, and they interpreted, um, the act according to their own interest, according to their own subjectivity. But here, what Macaulay interpreted the Act 1813, which allocated the fund. So he says that 1813 Act contains nothing about the particular languages and sciences which are to be studied. So he says that 1813 Act, or the act which allocated the fund of 1 lakh rupee, he said that there is nothing about the particular languages and sciences in 1813 Act. According to him, there is nothing clearly mentioned that this amount should be used for the promotion of uh, English or Sanskrit or Arabic. It is not clearly mentioned for any language, according to Macaulay. And again, he says that 1813 Act had set apart a lakh of rupees for the revival and promotion of literature and encouragement of learned natives of India. He said that it is this amount is for the revival and promotion of literature and the encouragement of the learned natives of India. So it is like this only, that it is for the revival and promotion of the literature and for the encouragement of the learned people of India. And it is not especially for any particular language like Arabic or Sanskrit. For the introduction and promotion of a knowledge of the sciences among the inhabitants of the British territories. So he said that this amount is for the promotion of the knowledge and sciences among the people who are under the control of British. His argument was that it was wrongly interpreted to mean that the allocation of 1 lakh rupees had been made for the study of Arabic and Sanskrit literature and of indigenous systems of knowledge. So he said that it has been wrongly interpreted. Uh, though there is nothing about Arabic and Sanskrit literature in the 1813 Act, but it has been wrongly interpreted by the people or by the community members that this amount is for the promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit uh, for the indigenous systems of knowledge. Indigenous systems of knowledge means for the knowledge, for the system of knowledge of the local people. It means that here, it means that for the Indian knowledge. Here, Macaulay wants to say that it is not particularly for the Indian knowledge. It is not mentioned anywhere. It has been wrongly interpreted. He tries to arrive through his minute of 1835 at a new interpretation of the provisions of the 1813 Act. So, uh, this minute was prepared, written in 1835, and through this minute, he tries to arrive on a on a conclusion, or he tries to give a new interpretation of 1813 Act, that according to him, that what people think about this act is not correct. So they are misinterpreting. And according to Macaulay, that the act was misinterpreted by the people according to their own interest and subjectivity. So Macaulay's line of argument. So on which line Macaulay is arguing? What are the basics of argument of Macaulay's minute? Macaulay takes on the problem from several angles. So the problem which was existed that time, that how to use this amount, and I should tell you that 1 lakh rupees was a huge amount around 200 years ago. So that's why there was the problem that how to use this huge amount. So Macaulay's uh, gave a full stop for the argument which was going on between the Anglicists and the Orientalists. He built up his argument in slow and gradual stages. So, step by step, he is building his argument in the minutes, that how to use that amount. and what was the purpose of 1813 Act. We will discuss it step by step. So we will discuss his argument step by step. Number one, he questioned the usefulness of the knowledge that was being imparted to Indian students. So he questioned the knowledge that what is the use of the knowledge which is being imparted, which is given to the Indian students. He questioned that what is the use of that? What what they are going to do after after learning or after reading Sanskrit, Arabic, or other Indian languages, what they are going to do there. So he questioned the usefulness of the knowledge, that being imparted to the Indian students. He sets the poetry of Milton, the metaphysics philosophy of thinkers like Locke, and physics of Newton against the sacred books of Hindus, and argues against spending money which have become useless. So he gave an example that you can read the poetry of Milton, or you can read the philosophy of thinkers like Locke, and you can go through the physics of Newton. He said that when you compare these knowledge, or when you compare the productivity of these writers, or these great personalities like Milton, Locke, and Newton, and when you compare these knowledge against the sacred books of Hindus, you will find that these books of Hindus, or these literature of India, is useless. So that is his argument, that the education which is given to Indian students is useless. That's why he is telling that what you have in the scriptures, what you have in the uh, in Indian literature, are here. Particularly, he mentioned that the sacred books of Hindus, what is there? So those things are useless when you compare the books of Hindus, or the sacred books of Hindus, with the poetry of Milton, philosophy of Locke, and the physics of Newton. So that's how he is building his argument. And in the end, you will find that he comes to conclusion that uh, English is a language which should be promoted in India and among the Indian people. So the second argument is that he questioned the destination of the funds allocated. So he questioned the destination. He said that what is the aim, what is the target, what is the destination of the funds which has been allocated for uh, for literature. So he said that though people are discussing, or the people are thinking that it is for the promotion and revival of Arabic and Sanskrit literature, but in reality, it is not fixed. It is not mentioned anywhere that this amount is for the promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit literature. That's why his second point is his question about the destination of the funds, of the amount, that, and he says that the funds could be used because how the funds could be used because their destination had not been fixed. He said that how this fund can be used when the destination, or when the aim is not fixed. He said that I hold this lakh of rupees to be quite at the disposal of the Governor General in Council. So he said that when the destination of the amount is not fixed, then how can we spend it all? How can we spend the fund like anything? So that's why he said that I hold this lakh of rupees to be quite at the disposal of the Governor General in Council. That he said that I am holding this amount, at the disposal of the Governor General in Council. So it means that this amount will be in custody of Governor General in Council for the purpose of promoting learning in India. So this amount is for the purpose of promoting learning in India. Okay, uh, it doesn't mean that this learning is Arabic or Sanskrit literature or the languages. So here he said that it is for the promotion of learning in India, that uh, how learning and the knowledge should be promoted in India. And he says that in any way which may be thought most advisable. And he said that this funds should be used by Governor General in Council the way he wants, the way he thinks that this is advisable for the learning in India. So he is free to use, and this fund is in his custody. Now, the third point of Macaulay is he then tries to establish the unsuitability of the dialects of India for the purpose of promoting learning. Now, his third argument is that he says that the dialects of India, here by dialects, he meant the languages of India. So the languages of India for him are the dialects of India. It means the languages in our country are dialects for Macaulay. So he says that the dialects of India or the languages of India are unsuitable for the purpose of promoting learning. So he says that the dialects in India or the languages of India are not that much rich that any knowledge or learning can be promoted in these languages. So by dialects, he must have meant the vernacular languages spoken in different parts of India. That's what I told you. He says that all parties seem to be agreed that the dialects spoken by the native contain neither literary nor scientific information, that until they are enriched, it will not be easy to translate any valuable work into them. Now you can see the racist comments or the thinking of Macaulay or the attitude of Macaulay towards Indian literature or towards Indian languages or towards Indian learning. So what he says that all parties seem to be agreed. So he might have talked with the people who were in the committee. So he said that all parties seem to be agreed. It means that uh, the people of the committee or the different groups or the parties in the committee, they seem to be agreed. It means they accept it that the dialects is spoken in by the native. It means the languages which are spoken by the Indian people contain neither literary nor scientific information. It means that the languages of India have neither literary nor scientific information. So Macaulay says that he had talked to the people of different parties of he had discussed with the people of the committee, and he says that those people who are in favor of Indian literature and the people who are in favor of English literature, English language, both the people, it means that all the people of the committee agree that Indian languages have neither literary nor scientific information. It means that Indian languages are useless. They are not, and they are not that much rich that literary or the scientific information should be given or promoted to those languages. And he said that until they are enriched, until they are enriched, so they are not, uh, rich as of now. So it will not be easy to translate any valuable work into them. So he said that until they are enriched, it will not be possible. It will not be easy to translate any valuable work into Indian languages. What he wanted to say that Indian languages are not uh, that much rich that any work, any good work can be translated into them. That's why he is telling that uh, Indian languages have neither literary nor scientific information. So that's how you can see that what was the attitude of Macaulay towards Indian literature or towards Indian languages or towards Indian knowledge and learning. He says it also seems to be admitted on all sides that intellectual improvement of people can only be done through some language, not vernacular amongst them, the dialect. So again, he says that it seems that all the people are agree. All the people, admit this that uh, in through the vernacular languages. By vernacular, he meant the Indian languages. Uh, through Indian languages, there cannot be intellectual improvement of Indian people. You can see the thinking or the attitude of Macaulay that Indian languages are so useless or mean, according to him, that intellectual improvement is not possible. Intellectual improvement of Indian people is not possible through Indian languages. What he called dialects. Now his fourth argument is, you know, he states that half of the committee feels that the medium through which knowledge was to be imparted should be English. So you see that how gradually, step by step, he is building up his argument. And as he said in the last, point, that Indian languages, are not rich, that are not that much rich that any, literature, any, valuable information or of language or literature can be given in those languages. So again, he says that all the people seems to agree with him that uh, intellectual improvement of Indians is not possible through Indian languages, what he called dialects. And now he comes to his point that all the people of the committee or half of the committee feels that. It means the people who are in the committee, half of the members of the committee agree with that the knowledge can be imparted in Indians through English only. It means that it is English through which knowledge can be imparted into the Indians. Or he meant to say that English is the language which is wished, which is able to able to impart knowledge into the Indians, or English through English. the knowledge can be imparted into the Indian people. And he says that the other half says that it should be Arabic and Sanskrit. And he said in the last slide, I mentioned that the half of the people, half of the members in the committee, feel that or realize that the knowledge can be imparted through English. Now, he says that other half of the people in the committee think that it should be Arabic or Sanskrit. As I told you in the beginning, that there were two groups in the committee. One was Orientalist and the other one was Anglicist. Orientalists favored Arabic and Sanskrit literature and the languages, while the Anglicists favored English language. So he says now, uh, through his minute, Macaulay building, building up his argument, and he is telling that half of the people in the committee are of the view that the knowledge should be promoted in English language. And now he says that half of the people are in favor of Arabic and Sanskrit literature. And now, in this context, he confesses, Macaulay says that he has no knowledge of either Sanskrit or Arabic. He says that it's okay. Uh, he doesn't know Sanskrit or Arabic, but he also admits that he has read translations of the most celebrated Sanskrit and Arabic works and conversed with scholars in India and in England. Now he says that he confesses that he doesn't know the Arabic and Sanskrit languages, but he says that he had read most of the celebrated Sanskrit and Arabic works, and he had talked to the scholars in India and England. It means that scholars of Arabic and Sanskrit in India and England. And he says that I have never found one among them who could deny that. He says that uh, he confesses that he doesn't know that doesn't know Arabic and Sanskrit languages, and but again he says that he had read the celebrated or the great works of Sanskrit and Arabic languages, and he also said that he talked with the people, he conversed with the celebrated scholars of Arabic and Sanskrit literature or the languages, and now he is coming to his point that he could not find, and he never found even a single scholar or even a single man uh, who could deny that a single shelf of a good European library has worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. Now you see the racial comment of Macaulay, that what he thinks about Indian literature, what he thinks about Sanskrit and Arabic literature, what he thinks about the Oriental knowledge, Oriental learning. He says that he met with the scholars, with the people who knew Arabic and Sanskrit. He met with the scholars of Arabic and Sanskrit, and he said that they could not deny that a single shelf of good European library has worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. What he meant to say? that a single shelf of a good European library, it means that there is a good European library and only one shelf of that library, has the knowledge or the worth more than all the native literature of Arabia, of India and Arabia. It means that he means to say that whole literature of India and Arabia is not even equal to one shelf of good European library. So he is comparing, a single shelf of good European library with whole native literature of India and Arabia, and he finds that, according to Macaulay, that one shelf of good European library is better than the whole literature of India and Arabia. And he is telling that he met with the scholars of Arabic and Sanskrit literature and languages, and he found that none of them denies this fact. So, according to him, that uh, uh, even the scholars of Sanskrit and Arabic languages, accept that or feel that one shelf of good European library is equal to the whole literature of India and Arabia. You can see the attitude of Macaulay towards Oriental knowledge. So the intrinsic superiority of the Western literature is indeed fully admitted by those members of the committee who support the Oriental plan of education. And he says that even the people in the committee, even the members of the committee who support the Oriental knowledge or the Oriental plan of education, uh, you know, it is accepted by those people that the intrinsic superiority of the Western literature, that inherent superiority of the Western literature is accepted by those members of the committee who support the Oriental plan of education. So he means to say that the members in the committee who support the Oriental languages or the Oriental plan of education, even those people, you know, accept the superiority of Western literature. That's what Macaulay is trying to say. So his minute. And again, he says that the books in Sanskrit are less valuable than the most paltry abridgments used at preparatory schools in England. So here I have mentioned that what are the preparatory schools. So preparatory school is a private school for children aged between 7 and 13. So it is a private school of children. And what he is telling uh, that the he said that the books in Sanskrit are less valuable. It means that the scriptures in Sanskrit are the great works of Sanskrit are less valuable than the most paltry abridgments. It means that the most trivial, summaries are the abridgments which are prescribed in the preparatory schools in England. Uh, that Sanskrit and Arabic, Sanskrit uh, books are less valuable with the trivial abridgments of the preparatory schools in England. So you can see that the attitude of Macaulay or the you know uh, his view on Sanskrit literature, that the Sanskrit literature is less valuable than the trivial things which are taught in the preparatory schools in England. Now again he questions, when it is in our power to teach this language, we shall teach languages in which, by universal confession, there are no books on any subject deserve to be compared to our own. So he says that when it is in our power to teach the people a language which is, valuable and which is accepted by all, so why shall we teach such language or such languages which are useless? So he meant to say that when it is in our power that we can teach them in English, which is more valuable, and the whole world, uh, you know, accepts it, then why should we go for the Arabic and Sanskrit languages, which are useless? And after reading this, what the students will do? And he said that we, the British, have to educate the people, Indians, who cannot at present be educated by means of their mother tongue. So he said that we have the responsibility uh, of teaching Indian people, and those people cannot be educated in their own mother tongue. It means that the Indian languages are not much rich that any knowledge or information can be given in those languages. So we cannot teach them, we cannot educate them in a language which doesn't have the capacity to uh, inculcate learning. So it is better we should teach them English, which is more powerful, which has the capacity to impart knowledge to the native or to the Indians. It takes up the question of the employability of those who receive education in Indian languages. And he questions about the employability, that what the people will do, what Indians will do after reading Arabic and Sanskrit literature. What will they do? What about the employability? Will there be any scope for them? And he says that having received education in Indian languages by being paid for it, the natives should turn up to ask the British administration as to why should remain unemployed. So he says that when the education will be given in Indian languages, and when they will not be able to get a job, or when they will not be able to do anything, then they will question the British administration that why this why these languages were taught to them when there was no scope for the employability. He raises the question, why should we create and nurture an opposition to a system of education by encouraging that Oriental interest? So he said that when there won't be any job opportunity or employability in after reading in Indian languages, then why should we nurture our opposition? Why should we encourage our opposition? Why should we nurture such people who turn up to us and they will question us that why did you teach in a language when there was no scope for the job or the employability. So he says that if they will question us, they will complain us that it was our mistake to teach them in a language which was of no use. After reading that, after reading that, they will not be able to get any job. So he also says that the money spent about 20,000 rupees a year to buy Arabic and Sanskrit books is a waste because hardly any of these books are bought. So he says that the money which is being spent, that is approximately 20,000 rupees a year, you know, the money which are being spent on Arabic and Sanskrit books, he said that it is useless because no one is going to buy these books. So why to publish books in these languages? Why to spend money on these books? And again, he says that the school book, the school book society sells 7 to 8,000 English books every year and earns a profit of 20% of the expenditure. And he said that when we publish English books and English books are sold out, and he says that school book society sells 7 to 8,000 English books, and we generate 20% profit of the expenditure. So he says that what is the use of publishing books in the languages which are not being sold? And here he is talking about the Arabic and Sanskrit books. That what is the purpose of publishing books in Arabic and Sanskrit languages which are not being sold, and we are spending money that is totally useless. And he said that English books are being sold almost. He said that 7 to 8,000 books are sold every year, and we are able to generate profit of 20% of our expenditure. So he meant to say that English books, through the publication of English books, we can generate profit, and because these books are being purchased by the readers, and when we publish the books in Arabic and Sanskrit languages, no one is going to buy those books, and just we are spending money on that without any use. At the end, he states, we are not fettered by the Act of Parliament of 1813, that we are not fettered by any pledge, expressed or implied, that we are free to employ our funds as we choose. So again, he says that we are not compelled by the Act of Parliament of 1813. We are and again he said we are not restricted, that we have expressed any pledge. So he says that we have no restrictions. We are not fettered. We are not, restricted, that uh, we have to spend this fund for that particular purpose. He says that we are not restricted, we are not compelled to use this fund for the promotion of Arabic and Sanskrit literature. So he says that we don't have any compulsion to use this fund for any particular purpose. So in the end, he says that we are free to employ our funds as we choose. It means that we are free to use this fund the way we choose it better. Thank you. So this was Unit 2, and now we will move to Unit 3. Please wait for some time. So, dear students, uh, just now we finished our unit number 2. That was about the minute of Nikale. Now we will discuss unit number 3. That is from ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan by Toruda. So in this unit, we will discuss about the life and works of Toruda, and then we will move to the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. So objectives of this unit are to describe Torudat and the socio-cultural context, to discuss her contribution to Indian writing in English, and to assess her as a woman poet, to analyze how she uses myth, and to explain how relevant she is today. So these are the objectives of unit number 3. So let's discuss few points about Torudat, the writer of the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. Torudat was born in 1856 and died in 1877. So she has a very short life. She could not even complete her 21 years. She was a poet, a novelist, essayist, and translator. You can imagine that a girl who lived only for 21 years, or let's say not even for 21 years, she, she was a poet, a novelist, an essayist, and a translator. And today, we are reading the works of Torudat, works of a writer, works of a girl who could not complete even her 21st year. So you can imagine that the intellectual capacity of the writer, and if we compare to ourselves, at the age of 21, we hardly think about all these things. And at the age of 21, Toludat was able to produce such literature, such valuable work, which are being taught at UG and PG level in the universities and the colleges. She was born into a cultured family. Her father was a linguist and poet, and mother translated the Ballad of Jesus into Bengali. So you can see that she was born into a cultured and educated family. Her father was a linguist and poet, and her mother was also a learned woman who translated Ballad of Jesus from English to Bengali. And I will tell you that her parents were converted Christian. The family converted to Christianity in 1862, traveled in Europe, and finally returned to India in 1873. So her family converted to Christianity in 1862. They traveled to Europe and they came back to India in 1873. So she had knowledge not only of English but of French as well. So when they traveled to Europe, they are further learned French language. So um, she was, uh, very much comfortable in Bengali, in English, and French languages. A sheaf gleaned from French fields was published in 1876 and it was published during her lifetime. And in this collection, we see that it is a translation from French into English and also includes a poem by her in French, Amon Pierre. So we see that a sheaf gleaned from French fields. This collection of poems, which was published in 1873, it is the poems in this collection are translations from French language to English language. It means that she was, very much familiar or well versed with French language as well. So in this collection, we find that the poems are translated from French into English, and one poem is in French, which was written by her own. It means that she was well versed in French language, that she was incapable of writing a poem in that language. She was interested in Sanskrit literature for some time. That must have contributed greatly to the writing of ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan, which was published posthumously in 1882. So we see that she was, well versed in Bengali, in French, in English, and for some time she was, interested in Sanskrit language as well. So this may be the reason of writing ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. Uh, so you will see that almost all the poems in this collection, that is ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan, are have been taken from the great works which are written in Sanskrit language. So she was interested in Sanskrit for some time. So she might have read these stories in Sanskrit, works, and then she might have borrowed uh, she wrote or composed the poems based on those ballads and legends, which are in the Sanskrit works of India. Ancient Ballads and Legends was published in 1832 after the death of the poet Surudar. Some of her English poems appeared in Calcutta Review. So Calcutta Review uh, was a journal at that time, So she published some of her poems in that journal. English education. So what was the condition of English education in that period when Thoreau lived? So we know how Thoreau and Macaulay were interested in English education in India. So in our first unit, we read the report of Vanilla Kunti Thoreau that how he was interested in English education in India and how he wrote to the Governor General that the condition of education in India, or particularly Madras presidency, should be improved. So we see that uh, how these people like Sugro, Macaulay, and uh, the letters of uh, Sir Charles Woods, which he wrote to Lord Dalhousie, how these people were in favor of English language in India, and uh, these and how the Woods dispatch, the letter which was written by Sir Charles Woods to Lord Dalhousie, it is known as Woods dispatch, and how his letter stressed the need to set up Indian universities, and universities in the cities like Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay were established. So we see that how these people like Vanilla Kundi Subro, Macaulay, and Wood, Sir Charles Wood, how these people were interested to introduce English language and literature in India. Uh, and other people, we will see that English was thought of not only as a language for communication, but also for intellectual discourse. Mm. That English was not only it is not only for the purpose of communication, but it was considered as the as that as the intellectual discourse, that if you know the English, then you can enhance your intellectuality. So it means that you will see, before the arrival of Britishers in India, the people of India were unaware of the English language. So when Britishers came to East India Company, they introduced English, and we see that even few of the Indian reformers or the educated people who knew the value of English, they wanted to introduce English language in India, and they wanted the Indian people to read and write in English, to learn English as well. So we see that the people like uh, Pernala Kunti Subro and Macaulay and Sir Charles Wood, how these people were interested uh, that English should be introduced in India, and it was the thinking that it is not better only for the communication, but it is also good for the intellectual discourse. It means that intellectual discourse can happen in English language only. So again, we see the other thinkers and reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai had also been influenced by Western thought and felt that it could help rationalize Hinduism. And Raja Ram Mohan Rai was also in favor of English language, and he thought that uh, through the introduction of English in India, that Hinduism can be rationalized. So when the situation was like this, that the educated people are the reformers and thinkers of India, were in support or in favor of English language, then how in such situation, in such condition, a poet, a genius like Torudas, who lived in that century, can, separate herself from English, and the woman, the girl who was from an educated family, how she cannot influence herself, how she cannot be influenced by these happenings which was going on in India. So it was the condition of English in India. Now we see that what was the thinking of women education in that period of time, in that time in India. So women's condition was crucial in this century. So you know that how women were treated in India, in those 18th and 19th century. So you see that there was a system like sati, that when the husband died, women had to burn herself, in that with her husband. So such was the predicament, such was the condition of women in our country in 19th century. Uh, so here we see that how the people or the thinkers or the philosophers or the educated people were against this sati system, and how they, uh, you know, uh, how they were in favor of remarriage of the women, because in those times, if the husband dies, women cannot marry again. They had to die, they had to burn their husband, or they had to be alive throughout their life without marriage. So we see that how the thinkers or the philosophers, the educated people, the reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who was in support of abolition, who 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 tried to abolish sati system in India, and the thinkers like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Vishnu Sastri, and Kandukuri, and they fight for the widow remarriage. So these were the people who were in favor of, widow remarriage. That how, in those times, a girl was married in her early age. So how, if the husband dies, a girl of, an early age can live whole life without marriage. So that's why these people were, against sati system, and they were against the, widowhood. So they were in favor of the remarriage of widows in those periods. So women's education was meant to make women good homemakers, mothers, and better companions to urbanized men. So what was women education in those periods? It was that if they are educated, that it means that they will be a good homemaker, they will be good mothers, and they will be better companions to their husbands. They were to be introduced to some writing skills, history, arithmetic, though the stress had been on hygiene, moral education, and needlework. So they were, uh, you know, introduced to some writing skills, that they should know some writing skills. They should know how to write, how to read. They should know something about the history, about arithmetic, but the main focus was about the hygiene and about their moral education and about their needlework, so that they can stitch the clothes of the family members at home. So it was the condition of women in those in that period, or we can say the in the 19th century, that time, and now what was the condition of religion in that period? The English brought with them their cultural practices and religion. We see that when British came to India, they brought their language, they brought their cultural practices, they brought their religion. Okay? Few were influenced and few espoused Christianity. So few of the Indians were influenced by the Christianity, by their religion, and few of them, espoused Christianity, or few of them converted to Christianity. So the family was one of them who were converted to Christianity. The conversion took place because of the restrictions in Hinduism and access to education and job opportunity in Christianity. So why the people were converted to Christianity? Because one thing was that the restrictions and in Hinduism, uh, so you can you when you if you read about the Dalit literature or about the Dalit people, they were not allowed to read or write. They were not allowed to go to the temple. They were not allowed to take water from the same well from where the Brahmins were taking. So there were so many restrictions for the Dalits from in Hinduism we can say. So uh, to come out of those restrictions, okay, people converted to Christianity. And other reason was that for education and job purposes, because there were better job opportunities and better education system in Christianity that also allured Indian people to convert into Christianity. So ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. So um, we will discuss a few points. Uh, Till now, we talked about the life and works of Torudat, and we talked about the education of in India in that period. We talked about the condition of women, the women education in the period Torudat lived in India, and we also discussed the um, uh, that education system uh, of India in that in those periods. So and and now we will come to the text, that is ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. So it is not possible to complete the entire unit in the remaining time because only 9 to 10 minutes are left. So just I will discuss few points from uh, this part, that is ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. And in the next class, I will cover it again. I will discuss again the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. So we have 8 to 9 minutes, and let's discuss few points about ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. So divided into 9 parts, following by some miscellaneous poems. It is an unfinished volume of poems written by Torudat in English. So this book, Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, it is divided into 9 parts. And after that, there are some miscellaneous poems. Actually, there are 7 in numbers. And it is also an unfinished volume of poems. Torudat wanted to write more, wanted to include more poems in this volume, but she couldn't do, as I told you in the beginning, that she could not complete even her 21st year. It means that she lived only for 21 years, and if she had lived for more time, she could have completed this book. So it is an unfinished volume of poems, and it is written in English. So few of the poems are written in English, and few of the poems are translated from Sanskrit to English by Toru Dutt. And again, these poems are not like the translations. So they have been, so the idea have been taken from the poems in Sanskrit, which Toru Dutt has read. So we will discuss those things in the later slides. It contains a total of 16 poems, some of which are Sanskrit translations of ancient Indian myths and legends. So, as the title of the volume itself is Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, it means that she had composed the poems on ancient legends and ballads of Hindustan. So that's what has been mentioned in this slide, that it contains a total of 16 poems, some of which are Sanskrit translations of ancient Indian myths and legends. So there are 16 poems in this volume, and some of the poems are translations from Sanskrit literature, uh, and which are based on the ancient Indian myths and legends. Composed between 1873 and 1877, a period when very few Indians and a woman that wrote in English. So the volume, which was composed in that period, in the 18th century, let's say in 1873 to 1877, at that time, very few Indians were able to write in English, and there was this woman, and there was Toludas, who was able to write in English. Writing in two languages other than your own mother tongue, Bengali, at that time is certainly not an ordinary task. We know that Toludas was a Bengali writer. So her mother tongue was a Bengali, and she wrote in two other languages. One was English, and the other one was French. So that time, when very few people were able to write in English, at that time, Toludat was writing in English and French in both the languages, other than her mother tongue, that is Bengali. So it was not an ordinary feat, it was not an ordinary task for a girl who lived only for 21 years, who composed poems and novels which are being taught in the universities and the colleges of India, maybe in other parts of the world as well, especially when the said person didn't survive her 21st year. As I told you, that she could not complete her 21st year. It means that in 21 years she died. And a writer, a poet, a girl who lived only for 21 years and who composed poems in Sanskrit, in English and French, other than her mother tongue, was not an easy task, was not an ordinary task in that period. Ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan is the outcome of the influence from the ancient tales Toru heard from her mother. So, how these ideas came to Toru Dutt. So, a girl, of that tender age is writing such kinds of poems. What were the inspiration? What were the motivation uh, were behind that? And she, how she was, how she has these ideas to compose poems on such topics like legends and ballads of Hindustan. So, these ideas were inculcated by her mother when she told other stories. Like we see that in our childhood, we listen the stories from or the stories or the tales from our parents, from our grandparents, that they used to tell us about the stories of fairy tales, about this and that. Uh, so we like to listen those stories. So the same thing happened with Torudat, that her mother, used to tell her the tales of ancient India. Her mother used to tell the tales to Torudat about the legends or the ballads of India, about Mahabharata, about Ramayana. So while listening all these things from her childhood, she inculcated the idea, the interest that she should write something based on these things. So, you see, the ancient ballad and legends of Hindustan, this volume is the outcome of the influence which she has received from her mother, of the influence of the tales which she has heard from her mother. So, for today, we will stop the class here, and again, we will start the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan composed by Soludat in our next class, and we will finish it. So, thank you for joining the class, and I hope this class will be a was useful for you. So, thank you again. Thank you, everyone.